And finally, at number 1, I have Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. Now, if you're not aware of what this game is, this is the re-implemented version of Seven Wonders Duel, which is one of my favourite two-player games of all time. So I was coming into this game pretty much expecting to love it, because not only do I love Seven Wonders Duel, I'm a huge Tolkien fan as well. So this one I would say is maybe 80% the same as the original Seven Wonders Duel. Some people may disagree with that, but that's the way I feel. The card system, or the card drafting system, is identical, which is not a bad thing, because this is a brilliant drafting system where you are displaying these cards out in a fixed order, some face up, some face down, and on your turn you can draft the cards at the extremities, potentially revealing cards beneath it, which are now available to your opponent. So there's this good kind of opportunity creating system that goes on, which creates a real natural tension throughout the game. So love that drafting system. It's still implemented perfectly here, and I'm just baffled why this mechanism is not used more in other games. Now, this game differs from Seven Wonders Duel mainly because it completely does away with the victory points system. So there's no longer any way to win by victory points. You are winning kind of in one of 3 different ways generally. The first of which is to collect the favour of the different Middle-earth races. So you've got the hobbits, the wizards, the elves, and so on. And that works exactly the same as the science systems in the original Seven Wonders Duel, where you're just trying to collect, I believe, 6 or 7 of them, and you'll instantly win if you get those. The second method is much like the military track in the original Seven Wonders Duel, but this one, instead of kind of going back and forth on a tug of war, it's more of a chasing system where, of course, one player, the Fellowship, is controlling Sam and Frodo running along this track, and the other players is the Nazgul slowly gaining ground on those hobbits to try and catch them. Of course, if the hobbits get to Mount Doom, they'll win, and if the Nazgul, the Ringwraiths, get to Frodo and Sam, then they'll instantly win. But I must say, this game does a fantastic job of visualising that chase with this really cool kind of perspex slider, where the hobbits are running, but the Nazgul is slowly gaining on it. It just looks really cool, a really nice little gimmick to visualise how that chase is playing out. Now, the biggest difference of this game is the fact that the third way that you can win this game is this kind of mini board to the side where you are competing over these 7 different regions of Middle-earth by having presence there. And if you have presence, either your soldiers or your orcs or goblins in those 7 regions, then you'll instantly win the game too. And of course, that means that there's this new type of card in the game where if you take them, you can deploy troops onto that map and then slide them around to try and fight each other. Now, the combat in this game is as easy as it gets, or easy as you can imagine, where basically troops cancel each other out. So if you have 2 troops here and somebody spawns a new troop into that region, they'll kill each other, meaning there's only 1 troop left. There's also some ability to slide around this map later in the game by moving your troops around. This game also does away with the wonders from Seven Wonders Duel, so you no longer have your personal display of cards, the powerful cards that need a lot of resources to play. This one, you have these landmarks, which are available to both of the players. They're very resource intensive, but if you get there, then you can put permanent presence down on the map, which is obviously gives you a nice advantage for controlling those different regions without having the need for any troops there. So that's the kind of main differences between the two, at least mechanically. This game did away with some other things as well to make it a bit faster, a bit punchier, and a bit more streamlined, and particularly when it comes to the resource management. So this one, for every resource that you cannot afford to pay for when you're taking a new card, you can simply substitute that with a coin rather than a slightly more convoluted variant on the original game. I must say, although on paper I think this game sounds like a better resolution for that, I think it did away with some of the foreplanning with what resources you might need, because it always seemed a little bit too easy to afford everything. So I thought that was a little bit of a weakness as compared to the original. Again, I thought it was a bit too easy to buy what you want when you want, and you weren't punished too much for not taking the resource cards early. But In contrast to that criticism, I think this game does a better job of increasing the tension from the get-go. It really does seem like as soon as you start this game, if you're starting to deploy troops on the map, it feels like the game could be ended really quickly if you're not careful. So this game does a really good job of throwing you straight into the frying pan, really, and you have to be looking over your shoulder and be paranoid straight from the get-go. Rather than, it was a bit more, I'm not going to say relaxed, but you could take your foot off the gas a little bit more with the original, because you wouldn't have to worry about those science symbols or the war, maybe until at least the second or halfway through the second phase. This one, it feels like getting straight into the action from the start, which I thought was a really nice touch. Other than that, I think the area control thing was a novel concept, a good idea. I thought it was a little bit rigid and a little bit too frustrating at times, because it felt like it was a little bit too back and forth. Deploy troops, take them off. Deploy troops, take them off. It felt like he wasn't really progressing and getting anywhere, at least if you weren't putting those towers down. And I also thought the fact that this game can go to the end, and now of course you don't have the victory point system anymore, it simply comes down to who has the most coverage on that area control map. And that can feel a little bit anticlimactic if you do manage to, weather the storm and get right to the end. You no longer are rewarded for your efforts. It simply comes down to who was controlling the most of the map, which can sometimes just feel circumstantial. And again, it doesn't feel like it has the punch of the original, where if you invested heavily in those victory points, then you were rewarded for that. And maybe that's the Eurogamer in me. I like victory points, and that game did that side of things a little bit better for me. So to summarise, I think this is a really nice reworking of the game, of course, especially if you like Lord of the Rings. The art style in this game is lovely. It is vintage Detroit artwork. It looks fantastic, albeit I don't think it really looks like Tolkien-style artwork. It's a little bit too, I'm not going to say comic booky, but Detroit has a very distinct style, whereas Tolkien art generally has this kind of whimsical, more kind of ethereal style that I think works and fits the IP a bit better for me. But again, that's because I'm a fan of the books and fan of Tolkien lore in general. Maybe as a more casual gamer, you wouldn't really understand, or not understand, but grok that. But still, if I didn't have the original Seven Wonders, I would certainly add this one to my collection. I think for me personally, I slightly prefer the original because I do like the victory point system. I prefer the progress tokens in the original one as well. And I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of game length and a few more fiddly rules to compensate for that. So I think you're going to fall in one or two camps. If you like one, you're going to like the other. It's just a matter of which one you prefer. Do you want the fantasy theme? Do you want the the more ancient world theme? It's completely up to you. They're both great games. Do I think both of them warrant a place in the collection? I don't think so. Again, I think I'm in the minority when I say that. I've had a lot of people say that there's definitely space for both of them in your collection. I disagree. I think they're too similar to have both of them. But still, you can't really go wrong. They're both great games. And the price point, the artwork, the mechanisms, it's just a really good value product for this latest Lord of the Rings version. So that is Lord of the Rings, Duel for Middle-earth.